They tried to break human prisoners. Instead, they learned what survival meant. The detention facility on Kepler 442b had been designed by the Zephyrian Empire's finest military architects. Its crystalline walls could withstand plasma bombardment. Its neural dampening fields could suppress the psychic abilities of a dozen species, and its automated systems could maintain perfect environmental control for centuries. What it couldn't account for was the 37 human prisoners who had been captured during the failed defense of Earth's outer colonies. Commander Vexahai of the Zephyrian Imperial Guard studied the monitoring displays with growing unease. 3 months had passed since the humans' arrival, and instead of breaking under the carefully calculated psychological pressure, they had adapted. "Show me Sector 7 again," Vexahai commanded, his forearms gesturing impatiently at the holographic display. The image materialized, revealing what had once been a sterile detention block. Now intricate patterns covered every surface, geometric designs carved into the walls with improvised tools, scratched messages in a dozen human languages, and what appeared to be a crude but functional calendar system. The humans had transformed their prison into something resembling a community center. "How did they create those markings?" Vexahai asked his aide, a nervous young Zephyrian named Koltos. "They used fragments from their meal dispensers, sir. We thought the metal was too soft to cause damage, but they've somehow hardened it through repeated compression and heating against the thermal regulators." Vexahai's secondary eyes narrowed. The Zephyrians were renowned throughout the galaxy for their technological prowess, yet these primitive humans had jury-rigged tools from garbage. In the detention block, Dr. Sarah Chen was conducting her daily medical rounds. The Zephyrians had provided basic medical care, but Sarah had organized a comprehensive health monitoring system using nothing but observation and improvised techniques. She checked on Marcus, a former Marine whose leg had been injured during capture. "How's the mobility today?" she asked, watching him perform the physical therapy routine she'd developed. "Better," Marcus replied, demonstrating a series of movements. "Your splint design is holding up well." The splint in question had been constructed from torn fabric, shaped metal scraps, and a binding agent created by mixing food paste with fiber from their prison uniforms. It was crude by medical standards, but it worked. Nearby, Commander Elena Vasquez was teaching a class in advanced mathematics to a group of younger prisoners. Without access to computers or even basic writing materials, they had developed a system, using knots and fabric strips to represent complex equations. The youngest prisoner, barely 19-year-old Tim Morrison, had become particularly adept at this system and was now working on calculating orbital mechanics for potential escape scenarios. "The beautiful thing about mathematics," Elena explained, "is that it exists whether we have fancy equipment or not. Numbers are universal." In another corner of the facility, Engineer Hassan al-Rashid was examining the ventilation system with the intensity of a surgeon studying anatomy. Over the past weeks, he had mapped every air current, temperature variation, and mechanical rhythm in their prison. His goal wasn't just escape, it was understanding. "The Zephyrians build everything in perfect symmetry," he explained to his small audience of fellow engineers. "But perfection can be predictable, and predictable systems have exploitable patterns, Commander." Vexahai watched these activities with a mixture of admiration and frustration. The humans had been given minimal resources and maximal restrictions, yet they had created educational systems, medical protocols, fitness regimens, and even entertainment. In one sector, they had organized what appeared to be theatrical performances, using their limited space to recreate scenes from human literature and history. "Sir," Koltos interrupted his observations, "the Council is requesting another progress report on the human psychological deterioration." "What psychological deterioration?" Vexahai snapped. "Look at them, they're thriving!" It was true. Despite being confined, malnourished, and cut off from their home world, the humans had maintained their mental health through sheer determination and community support. They had established leadership structures, conflict resolution protocols, and even a primitive but effective communications network that allowed them to coordinate activities across different sectors. The most remarkable development came in week 12 of their imprisonment. Dr. Chen had been observing the Zephyrian guards and noticed subtle patterns in their behavior, signs of stress, fatigue, and homesickness that were remarkably similar to human emotional responses. Instead of exploiting this knowledge, she did something that surprised everyone. She began offering medical advice to the guards who showed signs of illness. "Your people suffer from calcium deficiency in this low-gravity environment," she told one guard through the energy barrier. "The yellowing around your optical organs indicates mineral imbalance. Increasing your intake of the blue nutrient supplements in your rations should help." The guard, initially suspicious, later returned to thank her when the treatment proved effective. Word spread among the Zephyrian staff, and soon they were quietly consulting with the human prisoners about various health and technical issues. This development deeply unsettled Commander Vexhai. The humans were supposed to be broken, demoralized, and ready for interrogation. Instead, they had somehow managed to establish positive relationships with their captors while maintaining their dignity and unity. The breaking point came during an attempted prisoner transfer. When Zephyrian Command ordered the separation of several humans for individual interrogation, the entire group responded with coordinated but non-violent resistance. They didn't fight. That would have given the guards justification for harsh measures. Instead, they simply linked arms and began singing. It was an old human song called "We Shall Overcome," and though most of the Zephyrian guards didn't understand the words, the melody and the unified voices created an atmosphere of such determined hope that several guards found themselves unable to proceed with the separation order. Commander Vexhai watched the standoff with growing realization. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered dozens of species through superior technology and psychological warfare. They had broken warrior races, subjugated brilliant civilizations, and crushed rebellions that had burned across star systems. But they had never encountered anything like human resilience. These weren't super soldiers or advanced beings with extraordinary powers. They were ordinary humans, scientists, soldiers, engineers, teachers, who had simply refused to surrender their humanity. They had taken the worst situation imaginable and transformed it into something resembling hope. As Vexhai prepared his report to the High Council, he realized he couldn't honestly report that the human prisoners had been broken. Instead, he found himself writing something unprecedented in Zephyrian military history. The human prisoners have demonstrated a form of psychological resilience that our current containment protocols cannot overcome. They appear to possess an adaptive capacity that allows them to maintain social cohesion and mental stability under extreme duress. Recommendation: further study of human psychological frameworks may prove valuable for Imperial forces facing prolonged isolation or hardship conditions. In the detention blocks, Dr. Chen was organizing another medical training session, teaching her fellow prisoners advanced first aid techniques using improvised materials. Commander Vasquez was working with Hassan to develop more sophisticated tools from their limited resources. Marcus was leading a physical fitness program that kept everyone in fighting shape despite their poor nutrition. They didn't know it yet, but their unbreakable spirit was already changing the galaxy. Word of the human prisoners who couldn't be broken was spreading through Zephyrian military channels, reaching other species under Imperial occupation. Resistance movements on a dozen worlds were beginning to study human psychological techniques, learning new ways to maintain hope under oppression. The Zephyrians had tried to break the human prisoners to learn the secrets of their technology and military tactics. Instead, they learned something far more dangerous to an oppressive empire. The true meaning of survival wasn't just about staying alive. It was about staying human.